Well, hello, and welcome to our program about the powerful story told in the documentary film Saul and Ruby's Holocaust Survivor Band. My name is Thorin Tritter. I'm the Museum and Programming Director at the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center, which is located in Glen Cove, New York. I'm excited by our program this evening because in addition to showing you some clips from the film, we have with us the filmmaker Todd Lending and the star of the band, Saul Dreier. Before we get to that, however, I want to let you know that this program is made possible in part with funding from Humanities New York and the National Endowment for the Humanities. But I also need to add that any views, findings, conclusions, or recommendations expressed in this program do not necessarily represent those of the National Endowment for the Humanities. I also wanted to put in a plug for some of our other upcoming programs. This coming Sunday at 6 p.m., we're hosting the next program in our Sunday with Survivor series, this time with survivor Renee Zuroff, who's going to talk about her experiences in Poland before the war and then how she survived the Holocaust. Then next Tuesday, on June 15th at 6 p.m., I'll be talking with the celebrated author Ava Moremi about her book Hidden Recipes, which traces her parents' struggle to survive during the Holocaust and the role that recipes played as her mother secretly wrote down some recipes and then used those as a kind of momentum to keep herself alive. And one more program to mention, next Thursday at 6 p.m., we are offering a virtual tour of our galleries specifically themed for Pride Month, which will highlight material from our museum that relates to the history of gays and lesbians during World War II. Okay. You can find more details about those programs and all our online programs on our website at www.hmtcli.org under the Events tab. And I hope you'll also go to our website and make a donation by clicking on the Give Now button. Okay, enough advertisements. Let me take that down. Let's get to tonight's program. And for that, I'd like to ask the chair of the HMTC board, Andrea Bolander, to come on and introduce our program and welcome our guests. Andrea.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Thorin. Like Thorin, I am so excited that HMTC is hosting this program tonight because we are delighted to honor Holocaust survivor Saul Dreier and highlight his amazing story, told so powerfully by Todd Lending in the documentary Saul and Ruby's Holocaust Survivor Band. I've had the pleasure of knowing Saul Dreier for some time. He's a dynamic and charismatic man, as I'm sure you'll see. And if you have already seen the movie, you know that he decided a few years ago to learn to play the drums and start a band as a way to honor survivors. Over the last few years, he has teamed up with dozens of famous artists and performed all over the world. And I am proud to say that back in 2019, he came to HMTC to perform live with Israeli singing sensations Benny and Gad Elbaz for a music video named Shmor. So we are delighted to have him back, at least on our virtual stage, and hopefully we will get to have him back in person again for another concert soon. And joining Saul this meeting is Todd Lending, an Academy Award nominated and Emmy-winning filmmaker. While we know him for writing, producing, and filming Saul and Ruby's Holocaust Survivor Band, he has made dozens of highly acclaimed and powerful films, including the 2001 feature film-length documentary Legacy, which was nominated for an Academy Award, the PBS series No Time to Be a Child, the Wallace Foundation-funded film The Principal Story, and many others. He is a gifted filmmaker who in 2019 turned his talents to tell the story of Saul Dreier and Ruby Sosnowitz. I look forward to hearing more from him about that decision and what inspired him. But at this point, let me welcome both of our guests to the virtual stage, Saul Dreier and Todd Lending. Saul and Todd, can you join us on the screen?
We're here.
Wonderful.
Hi, Pat.
Hey, Saul.
Welcome, and thank you both so much for being here. It's really special to have you. I know we're going to be showing a couple of short clips from the film, but before we do that, Can I ask how you two met and why you decided to make this film?
Sure. I had just finished film and was looking for my next project. And I'm sorry, hold on one sec. I got to change my viewing here. Okay, there we go. And so a friend of mine showed me this short little piece in the New York Times. It was a 3-minute piece on Saul and Ruby's Holocaust survivor band. They had just formed it, and I looked at the piece, and I just immediately fell in love with these two guys, and I was just ripping my hair out, thinking, "Oh my God, the guy who did this little 3-minute piece, I'm sure this is part of something much longer. I wish I had found this myself." And my friend said, "You don't know that. You should call and find out. Check it out." So I said, "I'm sure the guy's doing a longer piece. I mean, look at these guys. They're amazing. They're fascinating." And anyway, I thought, what the heck, I'll call. So I found out the guy was not doing a longer piece. That was it. It was a short little piece. And I immediately got a hold of Saul. I called him up. I live in Chicago. Saul's down in Florida. I called him up and I asked him, what's the story? Are you guys interested in having a documentary done on you? They said, we are. And we've had a bunch of calls since that New York Times piece. We've had some, there's some companies that we're talking to. And I said, look, I want to be considered. I got on a plane the next day, flew down there, met Saul in a deli. We sat down, we talked. I talked him into going with me. I was ready to roll. I had a development fund that I had put to the side over the years to do a passion project. And I felt like this is it. And Saul agreed, and I met Ruby, and Ruby agreed, and that was it. We were off and running. That's how I met them, and that's how this got going.
So it sounds like you fell in love with him just like we did.
Yes.
So it definitely, it sounds just like the falling in love that happened here.
Yes.
So before we go further, let me turn things back over to Thorin to show us some of the film.
Thanks, Andrea. And my own welcome to both Todd and Saul. Thanks so much for being with us. As Andrea said, and as Todd and Saul know, we wanted to show a couple of clips from the film. Maybe some of you have already seen the film. If so, this will be a reminder of some of the scenes. But if not, this will be a bit of a teaser. The clips, well, the first clip doesn't really need an introduction. It's from the very beginning of the film, where it starts to talk about why Saul came up with this idea to have this band. So let me share my screen and we'll play the first clip. Maybe I'll tell you just about the second one too. The second clip is going to be part of a bio clip about Saul's wife, Clara. So I'll talk more about that in a minute, but let me start by getting this one up and playing our first clip.
Hold it. I saw an article about a lady who was a Holocaust survivor, 108 years old. She was a piano player, and she survived a concentration camp because of her playing piano. And I started to think, what can I do for a lady like this to keep her memory? And I'm thinking, I says, what would be so hard if I can find some Holocaust survivors and make a little Holocaust survivor orchestra? I took it to my heart. I said, that's what I'm gonna do. When I decided to put together a Holocaust survivor band, I went to my wife, Clara. I told her what I wanna do. So she told me, you're crazy. Then I went to my rabbi, told him the same story. He told me also I'm crazy. So my instinct told me that just on the contrary, because they told me I'm crazy, I'm gonna do it. Then I had to look for some Holocaust survivor musicians. And I called a couple friends, and one guy told me, he says, I've got somebody who taught me to play accordion when I was living in Brooklyn. His name is Ruby Sosnovitz. I gave you the number and call him up. He gave me the number, I called him up, I told him what I want to do. We sat down, we talk about it, we play, and that's how we started the Holocaust Survivor Band. We want to play in Poland. We want to play there for the 6 million people that perished. We want to play there for our parents, Ruby's and mine. And this I would love to do. It's my biggest ambition in life.
All right, so that gives you a little bit of the opening. The next clip, as I said, is a little bit of a bio clip about Clara, about Saul's wife. And one of the amazing things, as you know, if you've seen this film, is that it weaves together not only the story of the band, but the story of Saul and Ruby's wives. And it catches that narrow window of time where both of them sadly lost their wives. And Todd is able to give some background and history in the film, and then also show us those people. And you met Clara in that first clip, but this is a little more of the background. So here we go.
They came with guns. My brother fell asleep. He was young. And I wake him up, come on, I had no shoes on, snow up to here. And there were the guns after us. I took my brother on my shoulder, and I'm falling in up and down, up and down. But thank God nobody got killed.
You know, one of the amazing things about the film is Todd is able to capture some of Saul's energy and to connect us really to that family story and to the larger history. The next three clips I want to show come from a little later in the film. And for those, the first one is actually of when the band goes to Poland. So you heard in that first clip that their goal is to go to Poland and perform in Poland. They then do a whole bunch of shows where they're raising money for that trip. And they perform all over the place, starting with community centers and malls, and eventually moving up to someplace like the John F. Kennedy Center in DC. So it's really an amazing growth, and Todd follows that story. But then they go to Poland. And the first clip in Poland that I want to show is of their performance in Warsaw.
Look, hold on, Thorin.
Yeah.
Thorin, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm just curious. Would you want us to answer any questions before you continue on to the other clips? Do you have any questions related to these two clips that we just looked at?
Oh yeah, sure. Let's go ahead for sure.
And let's mix it up a little bit, maybe.
Okay, yeah. So let me first of all just encourage you, if you have questions in the audience about those first two clips, you know, please feel free to use the Q&A function to type in some questions. And maybe I'll just lead us off. And I'm going to take this down. How's that?
That'd be great. And Saul, can you tip your camera so we can see your whole face?
No.
There we go.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
need to see your whole beautiful face.
So one of the things that I was wondering just about, Todd, was your research, and you're digging up these photos and tracking them down. And what was that like? What did you need to do, and why did you decide to do that rather than to just focus on the current story?
Well, I tell you the truth.
Oh, Saul,
Until
Saul, you want to take?
go ahead. Tell him.
Let me answer, and then I want you to follow up. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Thorin, one of the things everyone should know here is there was no plan when we started filming this documentary. I mean, that's how I love to shoot documentaries. My best documentaries are completely unplanned. And so it was getting to know Saul and Ruby that then brought up these questions of, well, what's the story of the wives? I mean, yeah, what did they go through? And then you start asking for pictures, and you do interviews, and you get their stories, and then you need images to complement their stories. So, in the case of Clara, we were very, very lucky that Saul and Clara had these pictures that we were able to work with. And then on top of that, as a filmmaker, you also go to stock houses. Like, for instance, when she's talking about the German soldiers, them hiding in this abandoned house, and then the German soldiers coming and surrounding it. Well, obviously that wasn't actual footage that she shot of what was happening there. So, at that point you're like, well, what can we get that's going to really kind of represent that story? So that archival footage, that historical storytelling, just evolved as we were making the film. So what did you want to say?
I want to add one thing, that we all four of us or five of us, whatever, we weren't prepared for nothing. We were just working with you from the heart. Whatever I had to do, I did it for you, understand? So I didn't have a plan. I was working without a plan. Wherever we went, wherever we took, it was just normal, like I would live my life without a camera.
Yeah, yeah.
As somebody wrote in a question and is asking about how have people responded to the band, to the Holocaust survivor band, to Ruby and Saul's band. What's been the response you've gotten, and how has that changed over time, maybe?
Well, you want me to tell them how we started, how we got famous?
What's the response you get from people?
Standing ovations. We were playing with Dodo Fisher in the Nation Hotel in how you call it, in Las Vegas, and without the rehearsal, without anything, Dodo Fisher took a bar chair, sat down next to me, Ruby on the accordion, me on the drums, and also Ruby's daughter on the percussions, and we played belts that I wasn't prepared, no Ruby, nothing. He says, don't worry, guys, we're gonna make it. After we finished the song, 700 people from all over the world was a gathering. They were honoring Sheldon, what's his second name? The owner of the hotel.
Adelson.
What?
Adelson?
Sheldon Adelson, right? You remember that? And oh no, you weren't there. I don't think so.
I wasn't there.
No. And after we finished this encore song, everybody stand up and was cheering us. There was a standing ovation. Then we got off the stage, and Dodo Fisher was continued, and God helped me, I don't know, that was sitting next to Adelson, and after Adelson was his wife Miriam, and after Miriam, Ruby sitting, and he asked me, could you tell me how old you are? This time I was 91 years old. He says, Miriam, you see, I'm 96 years, 31 years old, play drums, works. I'm much younger, but I could do nothing. And this got me in my heart. I said, the man is such a wealthy man and everything. How he can absorb this? And I was like a little boy, 50 years old, in front of him. You remember, and that's how it started. After this, everything happened. Detroit, Hamilton, Canada, Austin, Texas, Pennsylvania, Poland, Israel. I have got no answers.
Center.
All over.
The Lincoln Center.
Lincoln Center, correct.
I just want to piggyback on something that Saul said, because I got to see different audiences telling his story over that 2.5 year period, and it was very interesting in that, I mean, the Jewish audiences, it was no brainer. I mean, they completely connected with this band, and they knew a lot of the songs, and there would be singing, and they would get up and there'd be dancing, and it was just, I mean, it was wonderful. But then it was interesting, and maybe I might be getting ahead of ourselves here, because I know you're going to show the clip in Poland, but that audience, and people will see, that was a Gentile audience.
Mixed.
Yeah.
Let's jump to that. I want to show two clips to start with. One of the performance in Warsaw, and then when you go to Krakow, your visit to the memorial in Plaszow, and give the people just a sense of the trip to Poland, and then we'll talk some more, and then I'll play a couple more clips.
Great.
So let me put those up.
Being here, I'm very humbled. I wouldn't believe when I went on the stage and I looked in front of me, this was the biggest audience so far we had. 4 generations were with us on the stage and were with us in the audience. I couldn't see the end of the audience. That was the most wonderful thing I ever enjoyed. That's right.
Take a round. Mary, please take a round. Wilson, please take a round. Please take a round. Never forget, please. Never forget. Never forget. Never forget. Never again. Never again. Never again. Peace of the world. Peace of the world.
Let me stop there. I'm going to play the other one, but I need to talk to you. So this is, Saul, was that the first time you were back in Poland since?
No, I was in Poland twice before, but what I did, you're going to see a scene that I froze because I was ashamed to bring my wife to show her where I was living, what's going on, so I was dodging it. But when I went with Tad and we were filming, I wanted to go to my apartment and I froze. Well, you're going to see the film. You're going to see in the film. I mean, it's a fact of life.
Yeah.
Right, Tad?
Yeah, that was a powerful. Are you showing that clip, Thorne?
I'm going to show at Plaszow, but I don't think at the house.
Oh, okay. So let us just explain real quick. Or Saul, you can explain the scene. Explain the scene that I shot of you going into your house for the first time. Do you want to explain that, or do you want me to?
No, you do.
Okay. So yeah, we were following Saul into his the apartment that he lived in Krakow, and he was going to take us upstairs, and he was so excited, and we were all excited, and he went in, and I'm following him right behind him with the camera, and he just suddenly stopped. He suddenly stopped and turned around and was weeping and just said, "I can't do it. I can't do it. I cannot go up there. I cannot. It's too painful." And it was one of those moments, you know, that you wait for as a filmmaker. It was very, very powerful, and I ended the scene there. In reality, we waited, we talked a little bit, Saul was consoled, and then eventually did go make it up the stairs, but it wasn't worth, you know, keeping that part in the film. But him going back to his home was extremely powerful.
And we get some sense of that in the next clip that I'm going to show about going to Plaszow, where Saul talks a little about what he's thinking about. But before we get to that, I see there's been a question that was asked about just, does the band interact with the audience beyond the music? When you perform, do people know that some of your history? Do they know you're a Holocaust survivor band? What do they know when they go to hear you?
They know only the articles that they write about us, but completely, like we're coming over now and we tell you details, they don't.
But they know you're a Holocaust survivor.
100%. They know that. I think I give you that quote. I think today in 2021, I just was 96 in April. I think that I'm the oldest Holocaust survivor in the world that plays music. I'm 96 years old.
I wouldn't doubt it.
let me just say at the end, there have been a lot of things we had to edit out. As obviously we shot a total of about 250 hours of footage over the course of 2.5 years. We cut that down to 80 minutes. So you can imagine we're talking hundreds of hours that were left on the cutting room floor. So yeah, one of the things that we had to edit out was the Q&A. There were in a number of the concerts, there were Q&As afterwards to answer this person's question. There were Q&As afterwards, and some of them were wonderful. And I would have loved to have included them in the film, but you have to edit, and just keep the essential stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so the next clip is from the visit to Plaszow. And this is, I think it highlights, at least in a little way, the fact that it's not just about the band. You're telling a bigger story here. And so let me get to that, and then we can talk about it.
My heart is breaking because I'm a family of 30 people I see in front of me. You know what that means? One alone left, alone one. And hustle and work and try, and thank God I did something in my life, my children, my grandchildren. What I'm doing now with the Holocaust Survivor Orchestra. This gave me the pride and everything of my life.
It's hard to believe what's happened, because people, I don't know if human people could do things like this.
So we learn in that clip that Saul, that you were one of Schindler's Jews. And, obviously Schindler's Jews became more famous after the movie came out, Schindler's List.
But I tell you how it started.
Yeah.
It started, I was working in a school, going out of the ghetto, and I was assorting stuff, merchandise, everything that the German took from the Jews, mostly furniture and everything, because at that time already we had many people already were taken to the crematorium, which we didn't know nothing about it. All of a sudden, the camp, the Plaszow concentration camp opened, and they liquidate my school with the workers and brought us over. But instead to work and assorted the stuff that they took from the Jews, they put me to build the barracks for more people to come, because thousands of people were coming to Plaszow from all over Europe. And I was building the barracks, but I wasn't carpenter. I was a young boy. I was 16 years old. And I was on detail. I was the one that was cutting lumber and bringing it over to the building so the carpenter can nail it in. And the Get was the commander. He was sitting on a white horse, drinking one of the biggest, I'm sorry, I can say it on television, even to you who he was. Unbelievable. Anyway. And we work one morning, he comes with couple SS people, and we starting to cutting lumber. I was very short. So I was the last one to go and pick up the lumber. Everybody picked up the lumber in front of me, but I didn't have two pieces. I only could pick up one. And I was going with the lumber, and I have no choice. I'm coming to the building to dump the lumber. Get is sitting on the horse with two SS men, and he's calling me to himself, and with a gun in the hand like this, ready to pull the trigger. Why didn't carry two pieces? I said there was no money there. There was one piece. I brought it. The horses that you got, the carpenters cut the lumber on wooden horses. Look like a horse, but it's and he talked to them something German, which I couldn't hear. They took me by the back, put me on the horse, took off my pants, and gave me 10, how you call, 10 with a whip.
You whip.
They whipped me 10 times. I tell you the truth, I took it, but I couldn't sleep on my behind for maybe 2 months. No medication, no nothing. This was my first episode, what happened with the German with me. And this was disgusting. They put a new heart to me. I says, I have to do something to be alive and to try to live through the war.
Yeah.
You see the way I'm talking, I'm shaking. Whatever I talk about is I'm shaking. You know, I can't even spill it out. That's how it hurts my stomach, my guts, my everything.
Yeah.
Gat was a monster. He was a monster.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that and telling us a little bit.
I got 3-4 episodes from Plashev, but we haven't got time. That's what you can see it on the film.
The last clip, or the penultimate clip actually, is the clip of you performing in Auschwitz on the tracks near the train.
Yeah, me and Dubi on the tracks where they were bringing people from all over the world. Yeah.
So let me jump to that. Hold on one second. Let me get it set up. It's just a short clip, but okay. Let me share my screen again.
Viva la Laika, tumba la Laika, vrijdag zal zijn. Sheikh Abocher.
Everybody asks me, how you survive? I don't know. I don't know. I saw evil. I felt evil. I got caught up so badly, so violently, in the circumstances that I was completely mixed up. Every circumstance I was in, I don't know how it happened. In the concentration camp, a friend of mine was bringing bread, and I don't know how I opened his lacquer, how I got the bread, how I ate it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know nothing.
It was only a memory.
To me, that's a very powerful clip, because first of all, you're at Auschwitz. Secondly, we can see there's not like a huge crowd like you had in Warsaw. There's a lot more restrictions, I'm guessing, and a lot more limitations put on what can be done at Auschwitz. And then thirdly, you talk about just the craziness and to survive and the unbelievable parts of survival. And yeah.
We also played in front, the same with Ruby and me, the way you said, not in front of the Arbeit macht das Leben, you know, over the Auschwitz door going to the concentration camp. We got a scene there too. Well, very powerful, very powerful.
So that was the goal, right? At the beginning, you said you wanted to play at Auschwitz.
Correct.
And when you finally did that, did you feel like you had achieved what you had wanted, or did it leave you wanting more?
No, we wanted to go to Warsaw. I wanted to see where the Jewish fighters fight the German. I wanted to see ruins of the ghetto. I loved Warsaw because they didn't touch Krakow. You understand? Krakow was a historic, the synagogue, everything, the Ramu cemetery,
synagogue, yeah.
Everything was perfect. But in Warsaw was a different situation. First of all, everything was rebuilt completely. The only remnants and the wall of the ghetto in Warsaw took me very well. That I was playing with the front of the wall with Dudu Fischer and Get Elbas. This is after we finished the film. So we're talking about the film. So this is for the next time. Okay, continue.
Let me just add. So when you shot those scenes, performing like on that in front of the train at Auschwitz at Birkenau, were there other people around? What was the reaction to
Well, everybody, my son was there, taking pictures, and people from the camp was there, from the concentration camp, who run the concentration camp. There were a few people, but not too
Museum.
many.
It was,
Because
it
was very limited, was very, they had, by the way, the Pope was coming a day or 2 days later, so everything was very security minded.
Yeah.
And I just want to say this, that playing on the tracks was set up as not as a concert. It was really something that they personally wanted to do for themselves. And so, yeah, in terms of filming it, it was like they wanted a record. I wanted a record of it too, obviously. But it was a person. I saw it as them. I mean, for lack of a better description, it was giving the finger to the Nazis and saying, you didn't look, sorry, you know, you didn't destroy us. And as survivors, I don't think any of us can imagine. I mean, if we could crawl inside of Saul's mind or Ruby's, we might have a better sense of what that must have felt like. I did the best I could in terms of capturing it, but it's I personally can't imagine you survive the Holocaust and then there you are in your 90s playing on the tracks, and it was a victory. I saw it as something just incredibly victorious, and I think I know they felt that. That's what you guys said. Yeah.
I was very happy about it.
Pardon me?
I was very happy about
Yeah.
the scene. I
Yeah.
loved it.
Yeah, it was very moving. We didn't need an audience there. Yeah.
No.
And I know that section of track, I know it. It's not on the main kind of section of the camps where visitors go. So I mean, I've been there and I can imagine the kind of quietness there, and to be able to do that. And I see the kind of poking of your finger or the sticking of the finger to the Nazis. I mean, for sure. Here's the Nazis wanting to kill all the Jews, and then here we are.
Here we are.
Two guys who survived.
Right.
Not only two Jews, but two guys who survived the Nazis.
Yeah.
Right there at the worst killing site that the Nazis created.
Yes.
Playing music.
Playing music. I think I thought it was just so poetic. And again, wasn't up in any game plan. It was something that came up. We were there. The opportunity was there. As Saul said, it was complicated by the fact that the Pope was coming, but we had a person working with us there. That's in the film, very briefly introduced as Johnny Daniels, and he is a British Jewish community activist who also fell in love with the band, and it was Johnny Daniels that opened a lot of doors in Poland. I mean, we were flying by the seat of our pants going to Poland. Nothing was scheduled. Nothing. People really need to know. I mean, this was a real documentary. It was like nothing was planned, and it just fell into play. It was bizarre. I mean, this guy, Johnny Daniels, happened to hear of them, came to visit Saul in Florida and fell in love with him and said, if you come to Poland, let me know. And that's what they did. They let him know. And before we know it, he's taking us into the presidential palace, and having a meeting with
I think that speaks to the resonance, perhaps surprising resonance of Saul's story and of this band and this idea that it obviously it caught your attention. It caught other people's attention as they learned about it, and turned into something, even though without that planning of we're going to do this or that.
Yeah.
Let me play one last clip, and this is right at the very end of the film, and it gets to a message that comes across at the end of the film, and I'd like to talk about that as too. But let me get to this last clip, and then we'll stop playing movies.
Only education, to educate the children, to educate the masses. This is the one thing that we have to do to stop it.
They keep sending.
No, it's not us. Yeah, it's here.
Have an Aguila. Now.
Okay, so I love the credits there because it's interwoven with such an upbeat and lively performance there at the end that captures a little more, I think, of the energy that I know Saul has and Ruby have. But before we talk about that energy, you end the film with the quote from Primo Levi. You end the film with the importance about education about the Holocaust and with awareness and highlighting the fact that anti-Semitism is still going on.
Yeah.
And it's not only going on, it's in some, we know it, there's been a rise in anti-Semitism. So one of the questions that I had for you was about what you experienced of anti-Semitism, if you did, in Poland when you went back there, and what's your sense about where the world is going?
Well, I'll start briefly, and then Saul, you take over. We did not really witness any overt anti-Semitism in Poland. I think, and Poland is a strange place because they have gone through a period before we got there where there was a fad almost in trying to find any kind of Jewish heritage. Young people were looking for that. They were doing 23andMe and whatever else to try and find any kind of connection. So you had that going on, while at the same time you have, like throughout the rest of Europe and in the US, you know, these right-wing, more fascistic movements that are clearly anti-Semitic. And what was missing in the clip was that that ending starts out with scenes in the US of white nationalists marching saying the Jews will not replace us. That was in the opening of that clip. You had groups of white men in Sweden that were anti-Semitic. It was in Spain. We had images of it unfolding in Spain, etc. So it's all over. It's all over. To end a film, the two most difficult parts of making a film is like any storytelling. It's the same with writing a book. It's how to open and how to close, how to hook them in the open, how to close so that there's some feeling of closure, you know, and there's a sense, and that we struggled a lot. Where, how do we end this? Where do we end this? How do we want to punctuate this ending? So Saul, who's a very good storyteller, was very involved actually in helping figure out, you know, a punching ending. And Saul, I kind of, in some ways, I was following the lead of Saul and Ruby, which is, you know, we want to end with a statement about anti-Semitism. I mean, while we are a band and we are playing joyfully our Jewish music and celebrating that we survived, you know, we also want to end with a punch. And that felt like that was appropriate. That was the punch. And I just, Saul's words just came from an interview. Again, nothing was written. I just asked Saul some questions about anti-Semitism and his feelings about it, and he ended it with his words. Saul, did you see any anti-Semitism in Poland? Did you sense anything?
Yes.
What were your thoughts?
Before the war, yes.
No. Thorin, are you asking
Yeah,
when
yeah,
we
I
were?
mean now. I mean now.
He means now.
Now, no. Now, as a matter of fact, I make connection with a lot of Jewish, Polish friends. As a matter of fact, there's a woman that's got a boyfriend here next where I live. She travels 6 months. She's in Poland. 6 months. She's in America. And she put together now for me, I'm going to Poland and I'm going to play 1 week, one of the biggest hotel with all the Jews going to gather, the Chabad and everybody going to be there. I'm going to play a whole week.
And I know I didn't show, I mean, obviously I've just shown really like the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more in this film for sure. But I know there's scenes when you are meeting with righteous Gentiles, you know, descendants of righteous Gentiles, people who rescued Jews, Poles who rescued
Yeah,
Jews.
did you see it on the stage?
Yeah.
One man passed away. Was a I loved him very much. What he did for 20 Jewish people. But one thing I'm gonna tell you to finish it up with me. I promised myself how long I gonna live. How long I gonna live? I'm gonna beat anti-Semitism. I'm gonna fight anti-Semitism, and I'm gonna make sure that never again, and the people gonna know that there was a Holocaust, because we can't afford another one. I guarantee you that. We can't afford it. Thank God that slowly we're getting rid of the COVID. There's almost a Holocaust.
You know, I mean, I think the end of the film comes together with these various contrasting messages. On the one hand, we've seen the happiness and the glee that you show as you perform in Poland and through all your performances. On the other hand, we're also connected throughout the whole story, is knowing that it's about the Holocaust and the horrors of the Holocaust. And then that final message about anti-Semitism resurging now and the need to fight anti-Semitism through education and through other means. And so it's a really kind of complex ending, I think. It really's got different ideas bouncing around, at least for me, when I watched that final part. I didn't know how to respond.
So now we're going to tell you one thing. I'm 96 years old. I've got 4 children. I got 7 great children and three great children. My son, who is on aviation work here, studied in Israel, and he packed in. He lives in Israel. He's teaching English. He's very happy, and I'm very happy he's there. And he loves the country. And he never knew what that Israel was. He never knew what the Holocaust was. Now he's everything, and he loves his father. Guarantee you that.
He's a
How could he not? How could he not? I want to. We're luckily Saul is going to give us a performance, virtual performance or live performance. But before we get to that, let me just ask both of you, what is the big message you want somebody to take away from this film as they watch this film? And I wonder if this is different for both of you, but maybe it's the same. But Saul, what do you want people to take away from seeing this film?
I wanted the people to take away to make sure that we got the whole world. We got one heart, one brain, and we have to live together. There's no such a thing. You, me, him. We have to live together, make sure that we love each other, because I got news for you. Nobody gonna win. Nobody. We just have to make sure that they live together. I went through much problems being a father, also being a Holocaust survivor, and come to a strange country. I love America. This is my life, but we have to make sure that we all are not different. We all got the same heart, the same skin, the same brain, the same everything, and we have to live together. That's my end for you. That's why I'm gonna beat everything. We have to cut out the cancer. Thank you.
Todd, how about you? Is there another part of the message that you would like people to come across after watching the film?
Talking to me?
Sorry, to Todd.
Asking me. You know, I always I think if a film is good, people will walk away with their own personal messages, and that's what I've seen with this film. I mean, I've had people come up to me and they express different things that they've walked away with, and I think the film is a strong film because it does explore this subject from a variety of different angles. I want to say I'm Jewish myself. I've never made a Jewish themed film. This was the first time that I made a Jewish themed film, and I stayed away from the Holocaust. I mean, I just thought there's so much that's been done on the Holocaust. I don't want people to get numb to the Holocaust. I don't know what I could add to the Holocaust. And it wasn't until I came across this story of these two men that I thought, okay, wow, this is a different angle on the Holocaust, because this is as much of a contemporary story as a story that touches on the Holocaust. They are both equally important and powerful. And we are living in a time that there is way too much anti-Semitism all over the world. So this is a subject that is unfortunately still very, very current and important. So that message, that angle I was very interested in. And also the fact that trauma is something that runs through most of my films. The subjects I deal with have various forms of trauma. Again, I've never dealt with two survivors of the Holocaust and their trauma. And I was very interested in looking at what I love about these two men is their resilience. That's a key word for me. They have resilience. Where does that come from? I don't think the film gives you a clear answer on where it comes from, but you see it. You see it coming out of these men, a resilience that's just so inspiring and so uplifting. So while we look at the dark side of things that occurred, we're also simultaneously looking at joy, creativity, and a remarkable resilience. And that, to me, was incredibly important and attractive, and I hope people are inspired by that.
You raised the question, and Saul, where does the resilience come from? Todd says that we see your resilience in the film. We can't believe it.
You're gonna see my resilience now. I'm gonna play you the song.
Okay. Let's hear. Yeah, let's hear you perform.
Let's set up. Gonna take 10 minutes.
Take a second and get ready. And so Saul is gonna perform on the drums and give us a live performance here. He's got various assistants, and I think we've seen a few different family members walking around in the background too. But he's gonna get set up, and then.
Ready?
Let me know if you can hear. Give us some sense.
Yeah, we can hear.
Are you ready?
We're ready.
We're ready, buddy.
Okay, coming up.
Fabulous.
Right.
Fabulous.
Did you hear the whole song?
I'm not sure yeah, we heard the whole song. It wasn't the
What
greatest
happened?
sound quality, but it was fabulous. It's fabulous. Saul, tell us, where do you get that love? Where's that passion coming from? Why do we see so much enjoyment and enthusiasm?
Did you see how I'm alive?
Yeah.
Did you hear everything?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank God. Andrea, I love you. Come on down, please. I want to see you.
Saul, I'm going to come down and visit you.
Dad, call me and you at time, 8 o'clock. Please, I have to talk to you.
Okay.
All right. You, I thank very much. You are a terrific interviewer. I enjoyed very much. And I love you people. And Todd, next time you do something, don't call me in the last minute. Time, please. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Saul. We love you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
And
Thank
you
you.
for joining us. And we will look forward to seeing you all at other programs soon. Bye-bye, everybody.